Thank you very much for the welcome. And can I say how good it is to be here as part of the Science Week, and also to thank Prof for their sponsorship of this event. I do quite a lot of lecturing to publics of all sorts, and starting several years ago, particularly in the United States, started getting questions at the end of my talk, regardless of what the talk was about. Is the world going to end in 2012? So I thought I'd better look into this. It is a very big subject and quite a fluffy subject, but in part it's to do with this film. Has it been in Ireland? How many people here have seen it? Well, fair smattering. Okay, how many think the world may end in 2012? Anybody prepared to confess to such fears? Okay, we've got one or two souls who think it might. I hope by the end of the talk you'll have changed your minds, but we'll see. So this is one of the flyers for the film 2012, a disaster movie. But even before that came out, some of this stuff was circulating. So what is it all about? It's actually about so many things, some of which contradict each other, that it's quite hard to get a handle on it. It might be about the Mayan calendar. Mayan calendar reaches the end of one of its cycles in December 2012, and some people have read that as the end of the world. We probably all have calendars at home that end on the 31st of December 2010, and we don't assume that the world is going to end. We mark the turnaround. We say Happy New Year, and let's hope next year's better than the last one. The Mayans, I think, do something similar, or did something similar, although this particular calendar ran on a much larger timescale, so it was a bigger turnaround. But it was just a turnaround. Go back to the beginning and start again. There's talk of hazards from space, which I'll talk a bit about. Earthquakes, tidal waves, volcanoes, crop circles. And if you really want to be creative, the Book of Revelations, the coming of the rapture, ley lines. Almost everything you fancy is in this mix somewhere. But I'm going to concentrate on the astronomical stuff because that's where I have some authority and some knowledge. So I'm not going to talk further about Mayan calendars or crop circles or books of Revelation or things like that. It is said that the world is going to end on the 21st of December 2012, either at 11:11 a.m. GMT, or maybe 11:11 p.m. UT. There seems to be a bit of ambiguity there. Surprisingly precise predictions in some cases. So let's look a little bit more at what's being said. I'm going to look at the sun and how it might cause the end of the world. I'm going to look at the Earth and the other planets and how they might cause the end of the world. And I'm going to look briefly at galactic alignments, and I'll explain that phrase in more detail when I get there. But we'll start with the sun. So the predictions around the sun seem to fall into two categories. Either the sun's magnetic field will reverse, woo, or there's going to be solar storms, giant solar storms, causing the end of the world in 2012. Well, yep, the sun has an 11-year cycle, and every 11 years, the sun's magnetic field reverses. But it's not going to do it in 2012. It's done it already. And at the time of the peak in between the reversals, you get lots of sunspots. So this image of the sun is taken around about the time the magnetic field was reversing, when there were virtually no sunspots. This one, which has lots of sunspots, is taken around the peak in between two reversals. Got a graph here that shows the number of sunspots against date. And it starts in 1760, goes up to 1880, starts again here, 1880, goes up to beyond 2000. And on the vertical axis is the number of sunspots. And you can see that it comes and goes on an 11-year cycle. There have been a lot of reversals of the sun's magnetic field, and we're still here. So I don't think we need to worry about the reversal of the sun's magnetic field. What about a big solar storm somehow frying the Earth out of existence or something? Well, you would expect solar storms where there are these peaks. And you'll see some peaks are big and some are small. This is a measure of activity on the sun. And when the sun is most active, you're most likely to get big solar flares. Cycles, as you can see, can be quite variable, quite low here, higher, medium. It's been highish in the recent past. But that's coming to an end. It looks as if the next solar cycle is going to be puny. Here's the tail end of that plot for the last solar cycle. And we waited a long, long time around here for the sunspots to start picking up again. It was incredibly low for a very long time. And we also said, what's happened to the sun? Why isn't the new cycle starting? Why aren't there sunspots? Well, we don't actually understand why some solar cycles are big and some are small, but we know that that's true. And so we were forced to conclude that this coming solar cycle is going to be a little one. It stayed low for very, very long. It finally started climbing, but the projection suggests it's only going to get this high, and it's only going to get that high in 2013, not 2012. So we might have some puny solar storms in 2013. If I put this peak on the graph that I've been showing you before, the red arrow shows how big a maximum we're expected to get in 2013. And it's going to be the lowest for 100 years. We don't know why. The sun just does that. It also means, incidentally, the sun will be slightly cooler, probably, because it's less active. So, reversals of the solar magnetic field, boring. Big solar storms, probably not. Maybe some feeble solar storms to go with a feeble solar maximum, and not in 2012. Concern about the Earth. Well, some people say the Earth's magnetic field is going to reverse, and that'll cause the end of the world in December 2012. And some people go a bit further and say the Earth will stop spinning and spin the other way when the magnetic field reverses. Interesting. Let's check up a bit on what we know about the Earth's magnetic field and whether it reverses. We do know that the magnetic North Pole wanders around. And this graph shows the track it's taken between about 1830 and 2001. It's actually heading nearer to the North Pole. It seems to move about 10 miles a year. But that isn't quite what the doommongers are talking about. They're talking about a reversal of the Earth's magnetic field. Well, the Earth's magnetic field does reverse. We've known that now for about 40, 50 years, 30, 40 years. It reverses when it feels like it. It does it not to a regular pattern. This graph here shows the last 5 million years, with the older stuff at the bottom and today up at the top. And each black bar shows when the Earth's magnetic field was pointing the same way as it is now. And you can see that it flip-flops. Not to any regular pattern, but it flip-flops. It typically flip-flops every 300,000 years. But we seem to have been in a stable period. It's been this way for about 750 years, twice as long as average. So you could say that maybe we're overdue a reversal of the Earth's magnetic field. Fair enough. But a reversal of the Earth's magnetic field doesn't happen like that. It takes 5,000 years. What it appears happens is the Earth's magnetic field reduces a bit, the strength goes down, and then it turns over, and then the strength builds up again. And rather curiously, when it does turn over, it seems to track through the Americas. At least on many other changes, it has tracked through the Americas. At the moment, the Earth's magnetic field is decreasing, so maybe we're building up to one. Who knows? But around about here, tool-using man, Homo habilis, it's interesting, this particular one, because the Earth's magnetic field provides a kind of magnetic shield and protects us from cosmic rays. And you might wonder what would happen when that shield goes, when the field is flipping over. And the answer is, I don't know, but it doesn't seem to have had an effect. A bit of exposure to cosmic rays for a few thousand years doesn't seem to have seriously affected evolution. The thing about the Earth changing spin, I can see how this has come about, because one of the theories about why the Earth's magnetic field exists is that there's molten iron in the center of the Earth spinning. And if it spins like that, the magnetic field's that direction. If you reverse the magnetic field, you presumably reverse the direction of the flow of this molten iron. But there's absolutely no evidence that the direction of the Earth's spin has changed. The Earth will keep spinning the same way. The sun will continue to rise in the east and set in the west. Although just what's going on in the core, I wouldn't like to say. So again, the evidence is this has happened before, and it doesn't seem to have caused mass extinctions. It doesn't seem to have affected evolution at all. So yeah, the Earth's magnetic field will reverse one day. It won't reverse on the 21st of December 2012, because it needs 5,000 years to do it, and we haven't got 5,000 years between now and December 2012. So it may reverse, but I don't think there'll be a major problem. Concerns about the planets. There's another whole area here. Something to do with the planets is going to cause the death of the Earth, the end of the world. So just what is it to do with the planets? Well, one talk is about, an alignment of the planets. And for a long time, I didn't know what this word really meant. So I've got a diagram that shows you an alignment. I'll point bits out to you because folk nearer the back may not be able to see the bits. The Earth is down here, and in this particular alignment, the sun is also aligned with some planets. So there's the sun. This is the view looking down on the solar system from the North Pole of the sun. And in there is Mercury, and then Venus, and Mars, and Jupiter, and Saturn. So that's a really big alignment. That's all the innermost planets happen to be aligned, plus the sun. You can get variants on this where you don't have the sun, or maybe you have the moon instead, or maybe you have a smaller set of planets. That's about the most extreme alignment that you're likely to get. So, is something like that going to happen in 2012? And what could happen if you get an alignment of the planets like this? Could the Earth be pulled sideways by the gravity of all these planets, all on one side? So what would be the effect? Let's line up all the planets there are on one side, and maybe the sun and the moon as well. There could be effects due to gravity, and there could be effects due to tides. If we look first of all at gravity, and we say the gravitational force of the moon is 1, then that of the sun is 100, and all the other planets contribute that. So much, much less than the moon, and a tiny, tiny fraction of the sun. Their gravity, even if they're all lined up like that, has no effect. What about tidal effects? Well, again, if we say the moon's effect is 1, it's actually stronger than the sun. The sun's effect is only 0.2, and all the other planets contribute that. Well, that's small compared with the moon, let alone the moon and the sun. So the planets aren't going to have any effect on tides. And I don't see what else planets could do to us. So I don't think an alignment of the planets can do anything other than provide interesting spectacles in the night sky. Do you remember the smiley face of a couple of years ago, where there's a crescent moon and 2 bright planets making the eyes, just for one night? That was an alignment, a small alignment. Well, we've had a number of these before. The most recent sizable alignment was May 2000, February 1962. They happen quite regularly. There have been many of them in the history of the Earth. The next ones, 5 planets and the moon, 2040. 5 planets, the sun and the moon, 2675. Nothing in 2012. There is no planetary alignment in 2012. And believe me, we can do the sums and make the predictions. So all this talk about the existence of a planetary alignment in 2012 is baloney. And even if it was true, so what? But there are other planetary things. Things from the solar system might hit the Earth. There might be a giant impact which would wipe out the Earth. Again, there's some grain of truth in this, as there is in everything that I'm talking about. Everything has a true nugget of science in it, which then gets built upon in a very curious way. Impacts are things we have to look out for. Impacts could be issues. Impact by a planet Nibiru. This is the most fantastic of all the things. The ancient Sumerians apparently identified a planet called Nibiru, well, they called it Nibiru, with an orbit of 3,600 years, which puts it 7 times the distance of Pluto. The Sumerians did not have telescopes, so they've seen this with the naked eye. Now we, with the naked eye, don't see planets beyond Saturn. We can't see Uranus and Neptune. So for this thing to be seen 7 times the distance of Pluto with the naked eye means it's incredibly bright and big and dangerous, unless it stays out there. So is this actually a small star rather than a planet that the Sumerians are talking about? Because it's a very big planet to shine sufficiently brightly to be seen with the naked eye out at that distance. For some reason, this planet is due to hit the Earth in 2012, and I don't need to tell you the date in 2012. It's not clear why. The story goes that somehow it has moved from the outer solar system, 7 times the distance of Pluto, right in to close to the Earth. If it was bright enough to be seen with the naked eye out there, it's bright enough to be seen in the daytime now, if it's as close as they say. and nobody spotted it. Oh, well, that's because it's hiding behind the sun. It's the far side of the sun from us. I mean, how it gets from out there to the far side of the sun with nobody seeing it is another question. But okay, we don't see it at the moment because it's parked behind the sun. The chairman kindly made allusions to pulsars. Pulsars are incredibly accurate clocks. And through studying pulsars, we have been able to ascertain the masses of the planets in the solar system to something like 10 decimal places.